Welcome back, V.O.C. YouTube channel, college football edition. No NFL video again this week. Look, I've been busy, been working. It's going to be coming next week. Still been doing my picks, though, so I've been keeping track of that. Very impactful weekend we just saw in college football last weekend, which we knew it would be. We thought it would be. Some outcomes that I don't think a whole lot of us saw coming, even fans of those teams. It's very interesting now to see, because now my mind has shifted on, okay, what can happen long term toward the end of the season? Who can win it all, right? So going to discuss that, dive into that. New coach hirings, picks this week, talk a little bit about the expansion of the playoff. So let's jump into it. When we look at the playoff now, it is now expanded. It is officially expanded last night. Rose Bowl agreed to the terms, so the playoff is officially expanded to 12 teams in 2024. Look, this is better for the sport. I hope now that we should get better games now in the regular season, early in the games. We should get bigger matchups of top 10 teams that are not in the same conference, because now you can afford to lose a game. You can afford to lose 2 games. Hell, in some conferences, you might afford to lose 3 games. So that officially being expanded now, it's better for the game. People are not going to like it, but this is what we need. We need to see games like this, or we need to see expansion like this so we can get the games that we want to see to have the broad majority of the season matter more, be more entertaining, and now it will be interesting moving forward. A team that has a chance to be 9-3 or 8-4, how does that impact them? Because nowadays you go 8-4, 9-3, it feels like there's really no difference. Moving forward now, that can be a very big difference in your season and what happens with you. So that's just, that came last night officially. So just wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit and talk about, now that we're going to be seeing it, what happens. And it'll be interesting to see now the rules of, where these games are played. Does the better ranked team host a home game now, or are they going to play it at neutral sites? That'll be also interesting to see. All right, probably the biggest, look, going into last week, and the biggest game was Michigan-Ohio State. And now the biggest storyline after that game was Michigan destroyed Ohio State. And they did. Ohio State fans, they destroyed you. Something I didn't see coming. I thought Ohio State was going to win the game. I thought Ohio State was the better football team. I thought they were not that they were tougher than Michigan, but I thought that they could match that for one game and show that, look, we can run the ball, we can play defense. Well, that didn't happen. They lost 45-23. Michigan completely took over the game in the second half. They were tougher, more physical than Ohio State was. The first half, it was pretty evenly matched. Michigan had bigger plays because Ohio State was trying to stop the run game. And that just went into, okay, J.J. McCarthy, can he make the play? Can he be the guy? And he was the guy. Granted, he was throwing to wide open receivers. I did like what Reggie Bush said at halftime. He's making the throws that he should make. So let's not go too crazy about it. But he made those throws. He stepped up in those situations. Something I was very reluctant on, and I hadn't seen from him. I don't think anybody's seen it from him. I was waiting for it, and I started to doubt if he could make those plays. He did make those plays, so he proved me wrong, showed me he can do that. Michigan as a whole proved me wrong. Look, I thought going in this year, 10-2 maybe, thought they had a shot to lose to Penn State, lose to Ohio State. Well, they've blown them both out in both games. And they just continue to show that they're a very good football team. I think if the playoff stays at these 4 teams that it's set at right now, Georgia, Michigan, USC, TCU, I think Michigan has a great shot, and they should make it to the national title game. And I think they have a great shot of winning it all. Not something I would have thought I would have said coming into this week at the beginning of the year, hell, even last week. Michigan has a true chance of winning it all. They're physical. They can run the ball. They have receivers on the outside, and JJ looks like he can make the throws and he can run. So that adds another element to defend when you look at it. Some big news just came out literally before I started filming this. Blake Corum is out for the year with his knees set to have surgery. Look, they had him for like 2 plays against Ohio State. Shouldn't have even suited up, in my opinion. He just didn't look right. To me, look, it's Blake Corum. We look at him, we go, look, he had the chance to win the Heisman. He was in the conversation all year. But to me, Donovan Edwards, there's really not a whole lot of step back when you put him in. He's fast. He's a little bit bigger than Corum. I think he's just as good. I don't think Michigan loses a whole lot. You lose the depth, where it's nice to have Edwards as your 2. But when you look at it, though, long-term wise, to me, it doesn't hurt them to not have Corum. The offensive line showed as itself that it doesn't matter who you put back there. They can run the ball and be physical and get guys open, get open holes for guys to run through. So Michigan has showed a lot for me that like I said, I didn't think I would sit here and say they can win the national title. They can easily win the national title, I think, this year with the way it's setting up. Jim Harbaugh's done a lot to reinvent himself. Look, 2020, I think if he's at any other school, Michigan has any other coach, that coach gets fired. But it's Jim. He got the extra year, being that he is a Michigan man. And look, it's worked out for him because he sat back after that year and realized he needed to make changes. Every change he's made so far has been an A-plus change. He flirted with the NFL, said he was coming back. So he has everything going for him right now. This is what I think everybody thought Michigan was going to be 7 years ago under Jim, and it's finally coming to fruition. So that's been very interesting to see how a guy reinvents himself and look at what becomes. Very similar to the way Brian Kelly reinvented himself at Notre Dame after his 4-8 year, where you look at it and go, okay, you've been mediocre up to this point. You had one really bad year, and you kind of make those changes, sit back, and you realize what you really need to fix and kind of go back to some basics and things. So it's been very interesting to see. And what's going to come next is who's going to be that next coach? Because clearly there's a cycle of good or great coaches having bad years, down years, and reinventing themselves. We've seen 2 at 2 major programs. So it'll be interesting to see who the next one is that steps up, because it's slowly looking like, could that be Nick Saban in Alabama? Could that be Dabo at Clemson? To reinvent themselves to really propel back up to the top. But yeah, no, it's been very interesting. Like I said, I didn't think Michigan could win against Ohio State. They won. I didn't think Michigan could win the national title. I think they have a legitimate shot. They proved that they can. All right, moving on to coaching changes. A big one on the West Coast. David Shaw stepped down at Stanford. He was 96-54 as their head coach. This was one where Stanford's kind of gone downhill the last 4 or 5 years. This is one where it feels like he was either going to be fired. Stanford didn't want to fire him, but he steps down. I don't think he's going to coach again. I think he's going to go be an analyst. He's very good at it. He does NFL Network draft anyways. I think he steps into the analyst role. I think he's he's done what he's wanted to do. If he came back like any coach, I wouldn't be shocked because coaches don't like to take time off. But it was just a very interesting, it was kind of a shocker to look at, now what's Stanford going to be without David Shaw. Nebraska officially hired Matt Rule, 8 years, $74 million deal. I said it last week. I think it's a great hire. I think the Big Ten has made great hires. The Big Ten historically has made great hires coaching-wise. And I think now in the next 3 to 4 years, the Big Ten legitimately has a shot to overtake the SEC, in my opinion, with the adding of USC, UCLA. We've seen what those 2 programs have been in the last couple of years. Now we see what USC really is this year with Lincoln Riley. For the Big Ten to hire a guy like Matt Rule at Nebraska. And then the next hire, Wisconsin hires Luke Fickell from Cincinnati, a 7-year deal with an average of $7.9 million. Fickell was 57-18 at Cincinnati, made the playoff last year. Very good coach. I really liked Luke Fickell for Notre Dame's job. I think he's going to do very well at Wisconsin. It's kind of a Wisconsin West, a Big Ten West that you can kind of take over and easily win. And I think, now you hire 2 good coaches that can be great at those schools. The Big Ten has made a lot of moves that I like. Like I said, the Big Ten historically has always hired great coaches, and these schools are smart, and they know when to make the move and how to make the move. You know, each school knew that they had to make a move, and they come in and they make great hires. Now Auburn hired Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is 76-47 as a head coach. His deal is 6 years, $6.5 million a year. Look, this is a risky hire for Auburn. I'm not the biggest Hugh Freeze fan, just because of his past. He has a shot to. He's going to win a lot of games. He doesn't have a shot. He's going to win a lot of games at Auburn. He might beat Alabama. He did that at Ole Miss. But Hugh Freeze is one of those guys. You give him control of a program like Auburn, I don't think he can control himself. He couldn't control himself at Ole Miss. Now, you're going to say, well, Caleb, this is now the day and age of NIL and players can get paid. But at what point does a guy that's done some shady stuff not stop themselves at another big program and not do those things again? Look, he's a guy that could help the program a lot by winning games, but also kill the program by having some things happen in recruiting, with players, tampering issues. So it's a very risky hire. I wouldn't have made the hire if I was Auburn. Like I said, he's going to win you a lot of games. He has a shot to help your program, but he can also kill it. And I think at Auburn, you've had history of these things, and you hire a guy that is not the best fit for a job like this. I don't get it fully. But look, it's the SEC. They don't really give a shit. He made a mistake once, and he's not going to do it again. Well, that's not always the case. Like I said, very risky hire. I wouldn't have done it. I think I would have hired Deion Sanders before I hired him. I would have made the call to a guy like Luke Fickell before I hired him. I would have made the call elsewhere. Pretty much, I feel like they wanted Lane. Lane didn't happen. Lane wasn't coming. I don't think they were ever very serious in Deion. And so they went to Hugh Freeze. Oh, next best, right? He's been in the SEC. He's beat Alabama. He's proven these things. But at what cost does this hurt you or help you? And so that's where I stand with it. I'm not the biggest fan of the hire, not the biggest Hugh Freeze fan, but he's going to win games because he's a good enough coach to win games. He's proven that at Ole Miss, at Liberty. But like I said, a guy that can help the program but also kill it at the same time. All right, moving on to picks. Look, I've been awful the last couple weeks. I was 4-5 last week, but I'm still 53-45 on the season. It is conference championship week. Have 9 conference championship games we're going to talk about. So let's jump into the first one. Friday night, number 11 Utah 9-3 versus number 4 USC 11-1. USC's -2.5 point favorite. If USC would have beat Utah in the regular season, I probably would be higher on Utah. I think USC, the way that they're playing right now, the way that Caleb Williams is playing, Heisman worthy, that he might be one of the best football players I've ever seen play. It feels like he's Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson into one. He's a bigger Kyler Murray. He's fast. He can throw the ball from any angle, any position of his body. There was nothing Notre Dame could do when they played him last week. And he just, wow after wow after wow play. He has another great performance or a good performance in this game. He's easily the Heisman Trophy winner. All right. Kansas State is ranked. For some reason, I do not have their ranking. Let me get to that real quick. Number 10, Kansas State, who is 9-3, versus number 3 TCU, 12-0. TCU's 2.5 point favorite. We've waited. TCU, we've waited for them to lose. They continue to win. They destroyed Iowa State last week. I think they're going to prove themselves yet again on a national stage. I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to make the playoff. It's going to be close, but I think they're going to win. All right, Toledo 7-5, -1.5 point favorite versus Ohio 9-3. This is a MAC championship. Don't know much about it. You look at the records and you go, well, Toledo, they're the favorite with 2 less wins. I'll go with Toledo in this game just to go with the favorites, continue on the trend. Coastal Carolina 9-2 versus Troy 10-2. Troy's 8.5 point favorite. It's a Sun Belt championship game. I'm going to easily go Troy. I went with Coastal Carolina a couple weeks ago as an underdog, and they killed me. Number 14 LSU 9-3 versus number 1 Georgia 12-0. Georgia 17.5 point favorite. LSU coming off the loss last week to a horrendous Texas A&M team. Easily go Georgia here. This is, no one's been talking about Georgia the last couple weeks. Everybody's now talking about Michigan and the other teams. I think this could be a week where Georgia comes in and says, yep, we're the best team in the country. This is why we won the national title last year, and we're coming for it again. I think Georgia has that type of game. They haven't won the SEC in a couple of years. It's hard to believe. I think they want to prove, look, we're just so good no one talks about us anymore. We're going to show you how good we really are. Number 22, UCF, who's 9-3, versus number 18, Tulane, 10-2. Tulane's a 4-point favorite. It's the American Athletic Conference Championship. I'm going to go with Tulane in this one. This is the Mountain West Conference Championship. Fresno State, 8-4, versus Boise State, 9-3. Boise State's minus 3-point favorite. I'm going to go with Boise State in this one. Looks like I'm taking all favorites this week, for the most part. ACC Championship, number 9 Clemson, who's 10-2, minus 7.5-point favorite, versus number 23 North Carolina, who is 9-3. Clemson comes off the horrendous loss to South Carolina. No reason they should have lost that game. Gave it away with turnovers. They made Spencer Rattler look horrible and then good at the same time, but that's Spencer Rattler. I think Clemson wins it close, but I think Clemson wins it late. All right, last game, Big Ten Championship game. Purdue 8-4 versus number 2 Michigan 12-0. Michigan's a 17-point favorite. I think this game isn't close. I think that Michigan rolls Purdue by 30 points. I just think Michigan's playing so great right now. They have a confidence. Purdue's not very good. It's going to be like last year's Big Ten Championship game, where they destroyed Iowa. They're going to destroy Purdue this week. Last week's game, Michigan-Ohio State, that was the Big Ten title game. And Michigan won that game. So they're, I think, easily going to beat Purdue. And they're going to go into the playoff with an argument for, are they 1 or are they 2? That's going to do it for this week's video. Playoff is finally expanding in 2024. Michigan legitimately has a shot at winning a national title. Big coaching hires, especially in the Big Ten. They do what they have historically done, hire great coaches, and then picks this week. Thanks for watching.